October 12, 1916, 5:42 a.m. Somme front, northern France. A frigid fog clings tenaciously to the mud-slicked ridges, obscuring the sight of splintered tree stumps and the raw, jagged gashes of trenches dug down nearly 8 feet. The air hangs thick with the metallic tang of cordite and the acrid bite of smoke, drifting from the British 18-pounder field guns already roaring to life behind the lines, spitting out close to 20 shells every minute. Visibility is a mere 30 meters, a curtain of gray. Somewhere beyond this swirling mist, the German MG-08 machine guns chatter with mechanical, almost inhuman cruelty, each one capable of unleashing a storm of 4 to 500 rounds per minute. In this war defined by mud, fire, and the agonizing weight, the animals are the first to sense the impending danger. A bay horse named Harrier snorts, his hooves drumming nervously against the earth. His chest heaves with each quick, shallow breath. For the past week, he's tirelessly hauled nearly 400 pounds of shells and rations along the same treacherous path, day after relentless day, because trucks become hopelessly mired and men collapse from exhaustion. But the horses keep moving. Frontline accounts suggest that over 2/3 of all supplies still rely on animals like him for transport. Private Samuel Trent tightens Harrier's harness, his fingers numb with cold. Tucked inside his chest pocket is a letter from his sister, creased, softened with wear, and reread countless times. It pleads, "If the horses are near you, be kind to them. They never chose this war." He taps the letter once, a silent promise, before mounting. At 5:50 a.m., the order cuts to the fog. Ammunition run. Forward line. Move. Samuel guides Harrier into the narrow confines of the communication trench. 2 other riders and 4 heavily laden supply horses fall in behind him. The mud is a thick, clinging mire like wet cement, greedily swallowing hooves and boots alike. The distant rumble of artillery flares echoes somewhere ahead. A shell detonates to the left of the path, spraying a shower of mud clods that smack against Samuel's coat. Harrier rears back in panic, the whites of his eyes flashing, but Samuel calms him with a firm hand and a soothing word. They push onward. Duckboard Corner is even worse than usual. One of the supply horses loses its footing, plunging into a waterlogged crater and sinking almost to its belly. Samuel dismounts instantly. The mud is so deep that it sucks at his legs with surprising force. Working together with planks, ropes, and sheer desperate effort, 3 men manage to haul the struggling horse back onto solid ground. The animal shivers uncontrollably, its sides heaving, but it's still able to walk. Time seems to warp and stretch here, every minute elongated by the incessant thunder of artillery. Ahead, at the dugout near the forward line, the unit's messenger dog awaits. Rex, a sharp-eyed German shepherd, lifts his head the moment Samuel steps inside. Captain Doyle kneels, carefully sliding a tiny scroll into the metal tube, secured to the dog's collar. "Message to Company B. Lines may go down again," he mutters grimly. Rex's paws dance with barely contained energy. Then, "Go!" The dog explodes into action, bolting into the trench and weaving effortlessly through the chaotic tangle of men, mud, and splintered boards. Messenger dogs often run more than 3 miles through relentless bombardment and barbed wire. Their survival rate is surprisingly, even astonishingly, higher than that of human runners. Samuel watches Rex disappear into the swirling fog, a mix of awe and apprehension churning within him. At 6:21 a.m., the world erupts in violence. German artillery shifts its barrage, unleashing a rapid-fire storm of shells. 6 deafening explosions in 20 seconds. The ground bucks and shudders, and shrapnel tears viciously through the sandbags. Harrier's entire body trembles like a bowstring pulled to its breaking point. Samuel presses close to the horse, murmuring words he hopes are calming, though he can barely hear his own voice over the deafening concussive blasts. The officer ahead shouts, "Move! If we stay, we die!" The horses surge forward, their hooves slipping on the rain-soaked boards as machine gun fire cracks menacingly overhead. The fog begins to thin as dawn struggles to break through, making them easier targets. At 6:33 a.m., they reach forward trench C, barely 6 feet deep, far too shallow for any real comfort. Part of the entrance has collapsed from a previous blast, but the riders carefully steer their horses inside. Men swarm them immediately, grabbing crates of rifle rounds, bandages, and tins of biscuits. Their faces are grimed with dirt and fatigue. One soldier pauses, offering Harrier a quick, grateful pat on the flank. "Good lad," he murmurs before vanishing back into the fray. Rex reappears in the trench, alive, mud-spattered, with a small cut on his shoulder. The message capsule on his collar is empty. He delivered it. The men cheer weakly, because any success, even that of a dog, feels like a small miracle in this hellish place. Samuel notices something half buried in the mud near the trench wall, a photograph. He picks it up carefully, brushing away the grime. Two smiling children gaze back at him, probably siblings. He doesn't know who dropped it. He doesn't know if the man who carried it still breathes. He slides a photo into the driest corner of a crate, hoping someone will return for it. At 6:49 a.m., the chaos intensifies. A runner stumbles into the trench, gasping. "Enemy advance at Sector L. Reinforcements needed." Rifles are checked. Officers shout orders. The trench descends into frantic activity. Samuel prepares Harrier to retreat to the supply depot when the horse suddenly freezes, his ears twitching northward. Hoofbeats. A medical stretcher team bursts through the thinning fog. 4 horses pulling carts, their sides splashed with mud and blood. The stretcher leaders shout, "Clear the route! Casualties inbound!" A wounded sergeant is carried past, blood soaking the bandage wrapped around his thigh. He clutches a letter addressed to "My dearest Margaret." Samuel turns away, his throat tight, remembering his own sister's handwriting. This moment marks another surge of tension. The line wavers, unsure if it will hold. At 7:02 a.m., a shell hits close enough to rip open the trench wall. Dirt and splinters explode into the air. Harrier rears so violently that Samuel feels the reins slipping from his grasp. Yet, in the sudden shock, a new sound emerges, the soft, rhythmic beating of wings. A pigeon descends through the dust-filled air, landing on the shoulder of a radio operator. The man quickly removes a message tube, reads the contents, and his face hardens. It's from Battalion HQ. The German push in Sector L is heavy. All units must hold. If that line breaks, we lose the whole sector. He turns to Samuel and Harrier. "Get back to the depot. Bring more rounds. Fast." Samuel nods once, his jaw tight. Harrier snorts, shaking his mane, his muscles still trembling from the blast. Overhead, the pigeon rises again, vanishing into the fog as if swallowed whole. 3 animals, horse, dog, and pigeon, each performing their vital task in a hell of a psalm. December 12, 1916, for 10 a.m. Near Beaumont Hamel, Somme sector. A bone-chilling fog hangs low over the shattered landscape, muffling every sound and transforming the scarred earth into a shifting, surreal landscape of gray shapes. The ground is a treacherous maze of mud-filled craters, collapsed dugouts, and tangled barbed wire, half buried beneath a layer of frost. The British 29th Division is preparing for yet another desperate rescue attempt. A night patrol has vanished somewhere beyond no man's land, and only fragmented Morse code signals have been received, broken, faint, and punctuated by bursts of machine gun fire from a hidden German nest. Captain Reeves stands at the lip of the forward trench, his coat stiff with frozen mud. He checks the map board under the weak glow of a dim lamp. Estimated enemy distance 280 to 350 meters. 2 overlapping MG-08 positions, each capable of firing 450 to 500 rounds per minute. The British Lewis guns can only cover the left flank. The ground to right slopes into a shallow depression, nicknamed the Hollow, a place where visibility drops to zero in fog like this. Reeves whistles softly. The dog handler, Corporal Ashton, steps forward, holding the harness of a compact, muscular Airedale named Thorn. The dog's fur is damp with condensation. Each breath plumes into a cloud of steam. Ashton tightens Thorn's message cylinder. Waterproof brass, dented from countless previous runs. Thorn is specially trained for battlefield courier duty. In clear conditions, he can cover 300 meters in under a minute. Today, shrouded in fog and within range of relentless machine gun fire, even 10 meters could mean certain death. Reeves dictates a message, Patrol pinned. Need exact position. Send flare on receipt. Artillery hold due to poor coordinates. R. Ashton rolls the paper tightly, seals it securely, and kneels beside Thorne. The dog lifts his head, his ears twitching at the distant booming of artillery. German 77 millimeters field guns firing sporadic harassing shells, roughly 4 to 6 per minute. Each impact sends a dusting of frost cascading from the trench walls. Reeves hesitates for only a fraction of a second. Send him. Ashton gives a short, clip command. Thorne launches himself over the parapet, landing in sludge that would be knee-deep to a man, but is only ankle-deep to him. He moves low to the ground, almost crawling, weaving expertly between shell holes, pausing only when a flare bursts somewhere in the distance behind the German line. Inside the swirling fog, the war shrinks to the bare essentials. Sound and instinct. At 4:17 a.m., Thorne reaches a hollow. Ashton and Reeves, watching from the parapet with binoculars, lose sight of him completely. German machine guns rattle, sweeping arcs of fire across the suspected British entry routes. Bullets snap through the fog, short, vicious bursts of 8 to 10 rounds. Thorne disappears into the deafening noise. Meanwhile, a kilometer to the south, another rescue operation is underway. The horse line of the 1st Indian Cavalry Division is moving a battery of 13-pounder field guns into new firing positions. The ground is far too soft for trucks. The wheels would sink immediately, choking in the mud. Only horses can haul the ammunition limbers and gun carriages across such unforgiving terrain. The lead horse, a bay gelding named Ratha, snorts vaporous clouds as he strains against the harness. The gun carriage weighs over 2,000 pounds. The mud adds what feels like twice that weight. The drivers walk beside the team, their boots sinking deep with every step. German artillery observers, hidden somewhere on the ridgelines to the east, send ranging shells. 1, 2, 3. Each one whistles in, exploding within 200 meters of the struggling column. The cavalrymen shout encouragement, urging the horses to greater speed. The horses obey, their muscles trembling with exhaustion. One shell lands close enough to pepper Ratha's flank with dirt, but no shrapnel strikes him. The team lurches forward, dragging the gun into a sunken road that offers a few precious meters of cover. Without these animals, the battery commander knows, the guns would never reach their firing positions before dawn. Back at Beaumont Hamel, the fog thins slightly. Reeves wipes the frost off the periscope lens and scans the faint, ghostly outlines of no man's land. Nothing. Then movement. Low. Quick. Thorne bursts from the swirling mist, soaked to the bone, limping slightly but alive. Bullets tear through the mud behind him. He slides into the trench, slamming into Ashton's chest. The handler grabs a message cylinder with shaking hands. Inside, 2 men wounded, one trapped in wire. Position 40M east of Lone Tree Stump. German MG on barn ruin. Need smoke. Lieutenant Jarvis. Reeves immediately signals the artillery liaison officer. The battery that Ratha helped deliver is now ready. Coordinates are relayed. Smoke barrage only. 3 guns, 8 shells each, pattern spread by 60 meters. In exactly 2 minutes, the screech of outgoing rounds cuts through the air. The shells burst ahead of the British line, blooming into thick, white walls that crawl across the cratered ground. Visibility plummets. Reeves orders the rescue team forward. 12 men climb out of the trench, crouched low, their rifles slung. Ashton joins them. Thorne stays behind. The dog paces anxiously, whining softly as the men vanish into the swirling whiteness. The rescue team enters the smoke. The world becomes surreal, deafening, disorienting, and coated in a burning chemical haze. They navigate by touch, boots finding wire bundles, hands brushing torn earth, ears straining to catch any human sound. A voice cuts through the smoke. Weak, desperate. Here, damn it, we're here. They find the patrol. 1 man shot through the thigh, another grazed across the ribs, and Jarvis hopelessly entangled in coils of barbed wire. Reeves kneels, cutting through the wire with pliers. A German machine gun opens fire blindly through the smoke, rounds snapping past them, but failing to find their targets. A British soldier fires 3 rapid shots toward the barn ruin. Suppression fire only. Another tosses a smoke grenade to widen the blind zone. Reeves frees Jarvis. Move. The team heaves a wounded man, staggering, slipping, nearly falling into a flooded trench remnant. Twice, Reeves has to stop and check his direction, the compass shaking wildly in his gloved hand. Smoke, grenades hiss, and pop beside them. German rifles crack somewhere ahead, but the bullets are wild. They reach the hollow just as the smoke thins dangerously. Ashton turns, shouting, "Thorne, guide!" The dog explodes into action again, barking sharply, running from man to man, circling them, urging them toward the right direction. He leads them to a collapsed sap's trench, barely recognizable in the fog, providing critical cover for the final 60 meters back to the British line. Machine gun tracers cut through the clearing haze, chasing them relentlessly. 2 soldiers tumble into the trench. Reeves slips on the mud, but manages to recover. Jarvis, pale from blood loss but still conscious, keeps his head down as bullets shred bark from a dead tree overhead. The dog is the last to jump into the sap's trench. Mud sprays as a burst of machine gun fire lands mere meters behind him. 4:41 a.m. The team crashes back into the British trench. Medics pull the wounded men away. Jarvis grips Reeves's arm. "Dog saved us twice," he gasps. "That thing's worth a battalion." Ashton kneels beside Thorne, checking his paws, cleaning a shallow cut on the dog's shoulder. Thorne shivers, yearning for warmth, but his tail thumps once weakly when Ashton pats his head. Above them, the smoke curtain begins to lift. Dawn begins to touch the battlefield, gray, silent, and fragile. At the same hour, farther south, Ratha and the other horses have completed their arduous haul. The 13-pounder guns are dug in camouflage and ready to launch supporting fire. The horse team stands steaming in the frigid air, their flanks quivering, their nostrils flared wide. The drivers stroke their necks, whispering words of thanks that no one else can hear. By noon, these same guns will fire a coordinated barrage, up to 15 rounds per minute in short bursts, covering a British counterattack against a German trench system newly identified from aerial photographs. But for now, the horses rest. Their part in the day's survival is quiet, uncelebrated, but utterly vital. The afternoon brings a new emergency. A forward listening post is overrun in a surprise German raid. Communications wires are cut again. Runners sent earlier have not returned. The battalion signals officer turns to the last tool available, a homing pigeon named Ash Arrow. The bird's small metal lead canister already holds a pre-written grid correction request. If delivered successfully to headquarters 2 kilometers to the rear, the division artillery can adjust its fire and prevent a breakout along the weakened trench sector. The officer writes one additional line. Urgent. Enemy infiltration confirmed. Immediate response required. He attaches a message, steps onto a wooden crate near the parados, and releases the pigeon. Ash Arrow surges upward, beating his wings hard, cutting through the drifting smoke. German rifles fire blindly at the silhouette. The bird banks sharply to the right, then climbs out of sight. Whether it survives, or whether the battalion survives, will depend on those few fragile feathers slicing through the sky. December 12, 1916, 5:15 a.m. The Somme battlefield, just east of Beaumont-Hamel. Dawn breaks, casting a weak, orange light over the churned mud, shell craters, and remnants of shattered wire. The morning fog still clings stubbornly to the low depressions. The ground is a treacherous mix of ice, mud, and frozen debris, perfect camouflage for hidden German MG. 08 positions, still active at roughly 450 rounds per minute. There's 7. 92 millimeters bullets tearing through the air. Casualties from the night's operations litter the trenches. Frozen limbs, blood stiff in the mud, notes from last letters partially soaked, the human toll unmistakable. Captain Reeves and Corporal Ashton assess the aftermath of Thorne's heroic run. The dog rests nearby, shivering, his nose buried in the mud, his ears twitching at every distant crack of artillery fire. The men themselves are exhausted but alert, sensing the precariousness of the morning. The success of the rescue has emboldened the command, yet the battlefield is far from secure. At the same moment, in the southern sector, the 1st Indian Cavalry Division's 13-pounder field guns, dragged into position by Ratha and her team of bay and chestnut geldings, are already in position. The horses pant, their backs glistening with condensation, their hooves digging into the frost-laden mud. The guns are ready to provide cover for a counter-assault against newly spotted German defensive nests. Each 13-pounder has a range of 5,900 meters, firing 8 shells per minute, with crews trained to alternate rapid fire and short pauses to avoid barrel overheating. The artillery commander surveys the field through binoculars, noting that German forward observers are attempting to re-establish spotting posts in shell-cratered areas. He signals the battery to commence intermittent fire on suspected movement zones. The concussion shakes the horse's flanks. Ratha flinches at every incoming thud, but instinct and training keep her steady. The gun crews coordinate their bursts with map grid corrections, many relayed by pigeons like Ash Arrow, whose small metal capsule contains the last known coordinates of enemy patrols. Meanwhile, Thorne's next mission begins almost immediately. A new British patrol has become disoriented beyond the forward trench line, and German machine guns have established suppressive fire near a ruined farmstead. Reeves scribbles coordinates onto another waterproof slip, his hands trembling slightly from cold and adrenaline. Thorne, sensing the urgency, whines softly, sniffs the ground, and braces himself. Ashton gives a word, and the dog darts across the battlefield once more, low, fast, weaving between craters and shell-torn wire. Bullets whistle past him, 5 rounds per second from a nearby MG-08, but none connect. Thorne moves with a combination of instinct and training, acutely aware that hesitation is fatal. As he reaches a patrol, Thorne's appearance triggers a surge of relief and renewed energy. The men, frozen from fear and exposure, grab the dog, and the message is extracted. Jarvis, still pale from his thigh wound, raises a hand weakly. The Morse code signal to headquarters has been temporarily blocked, and only Thorne can carry vital intelligence for artillery correction. Within minutes, the Pigeon Ash Arrow is again airborne, climbing through the dawn fog towards Divisional HQ, a single-feathered lifeline against the chaos below. To the north, Ratha's battery now opens a heavier barrage. The 13-pounders fire on predetermined German trench sectors with exacting timing. Shells arc in high trajectories, exploding with concussive force at roughly 1,200 meters from the front lines. The noise is deafening. The horses are covered in mud and sweat, but they stand firm, every step critical. One horse flinches as shrapnel lands meters away, yet maintains its position, instinctively trusting its handler. The coordination of man, animal, and artillery illustrates a combined arms approach that will significantly influence modern warfare doctrines, theorized in later after-action reports. On the central ridge, German soldiers, momentarily disoriented by the sudden smoke and shell barrage, attempt to regroup. The British patrol is extracting its wounded across open ground, led by Thorne. Reeves instructs the men to stay low, to follow the dog's movements precisely. One misstep could mean certain death. Mud grabs at boots, barbed wire scratches faces, yet the small dog moves unfalteringly. Each leap, each sprint, saves precious seconds and lives. The pinnacle of chaos erupts at 6:02 a.m. A concealed German sniper has spotted Jarvis and opens fire from approximately 350 meters. Tracers whine through the fog. Reeves dives into a shallow crater, dragging Jarvis with him. A second later, a British machine gun team, positioned thanks to Ratha's guns, fires a rapid suppressive burst of 200 rounds in a 30-second volley. The sniper is neutralized. Soldiers cheer softly, tiny, fragile sounds swallowed by the surrounding devastation. Reeves helps lift Jarvis partially into the trench line. Thorne, sensing that the mission is complete, stands guard, his ears cocked, ready to intercept any further threats. The battlefield is littered with evidence of this coordinated animal-human effort. Horses' hoofprints, pigeons' wing impressions in the snow, dogs' paw marks through the frozen mud. As midday approaches, the aftermath becomes apparent. Casualty counts are tallied. 12 rescued, 3 seriously wounded, none lost due to any failure on the part of Thorne or the horse teams. German positions have been partially neutralized, though the long-term engagement will continue. The battlefield is marked with silent witnesses, letters flattened in the mud, personal items frozen into the earth, animal footprints alongside human ones. Reeves sits, writing in his journal, recording the details of each animal's contribution. The pigeons, with their navigational instinct exceeding human planning. The dogs, carrying messages and guiding patrols. The horses, moving artillery and supplies across impassable terrain. Each contributes to the survival of men and the temporary tactical advantage gained. He notes specifically that the integration of animals into communication and artillery logistics has fundamentally altered battlefield calculus, suggesting a new model for supporting human infantry in extreme conditions. By late afternoon, the guns repositioned to support a secondary advance. Ratha and her team haul ammunition limbers back toward secondary trenches. Artillery fire from the 13-pounders keeps German forward squads suppressed while Thorne and Ashton run new messages. Each action is precise, high stakes, and coordinated with the survival of human soldiers in mind. As dusk falls, the field quiets. Survivors huddle in trenches. Mud-streaked faces stare blankly at the horizon. Letters, photographs, and small mementos are retrieved, wrapped carefully in waterproof coverings. The men write hurriedly, aware that these may be the last moments to communicate with loved ones. The legacy of the day begins to crystallize. Strategically, the Somme line holds, though tenuously. Tactically, the battlefield demonstrates the unprecedented importance of animals in warfare. The logistical support provided by horses, the message delivery of dogs, and the unmatched reliability of pigeons in communication across broken terrain. Commanders begin theorizing post-battle analyses that will inform doctrines of mechanization, combined arms, and integrated battlefield support for decades to come. Thorne is given a brief rest in a makeshift kennel. Ratha and the other horses graze on sparse hay, their muscles still quivering from exertion. Ash Arrow returns, exhausted but successful, carrying intelligence that prevented further casualties and potentially saved hundreds of lives. The men quietly acknowledge their debt to these creatures, silent, heroic participants in the theater of war. By nightfall, the Somme sector is calm enough for after-action surveys. Reeves photographs paw prints, hoof tracks, and pigeon flight paths relative to battlefield positions. These small records, scraps of proof, capture the extraordinary role of non-human participants. The tactical innovations, born of necessity and survival instinct, will echo in war colleges for generations, teaching that sometimes victory hinges on the courage of creatures beyond human valor. The day ends with solemn realization. War is as much about adaptation as brute force. Men and animals intertwine in the mud, blood, and frost become a singular unit. Without Thorne's guidance, the horse's haul, or Ash Arrow's flight, the mission might have failed. The battlefield survives as memory, strategy, and a cautionary tale.